This is the story of how I kicked my own backside into gear and got the shot, and the lessons I learned along the way. It took me all summer to do it. I'll be the first to admit that last winter was brutal for me mentally. Like many people, I really struggle with winter. The long darkness, the constant bad weather. Combine that with being a new dad, being self-employed in an economic downturn, and trying to get a photography business off the ground, and you've got a recipe for a particularly difficult winter. But when April came around...
Good morning. I've got nothing for you. I haven't even had my breakfast yet. Being shouted at by these geese. Hello? Huh? Huh?
We finally felt the first warm glow of sun in months. The birds began to sing, the flowers began to grow, and the conditions started to show themselves. This, though, was a false start. Much of the world has experienced some pretty weird weather this year, from heat waves to flash floods. For where I live in the UK, though, we've had the quintessential British summer. Lots of grey skies, very little sun, and barely any conditions you might consider inspirational. And that's okay though, because as Brits, we can handle a little bad weather. Goodness knows we love to complain about it enough.
I say, old chap, frightful weather we're having, isn't it?
So, like everyone else, I just got on with it. When it comes to flat light, composition is king, so I started trying to make more arty images. I looked for shapes, patterns, colour, anything that could make pleasing images without the need for good light. And it worked occasionally, although I had a lot more misses than hits. But, as the saying goes, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I still needed to itch that scratch though. You know that rush you get when you take a photo and think, yes, this is what I've been waiting for. So I started to spread my wings, as it were, and do different sorts of photography. Now, I'm no wildlife photographer, but I'll be damned if I don't at least pretend I am when I go to the zoo on a family day out. This really scratched that itch, because there's something about being able to capture an animal looking directly into your camera that connects you on a much deeper level than just watching them mill about in an enclosure. But as I don't work in a zoo, this was just a one-off chance to get that buzz. I still faced the reality that I wanted to take beautiful photos, but didn't get the chance to on the rare occasion that conditions were right. You see, like most of you, I work full-time, so I have to fit the photography I actually enjoy around my job and my life, which meant that when conditions did magically coincide with those rare occasions I could get out, I savoured them all the more. A lot of landscape photographers like to complain about summer, but I'm a bit of a contrarian. I love the blue skies, and because I live in a farming community, summer means a constant change of subjects to photograph. I love paring things down to their absolute basics. The simpler, the better. I generally find that this pays off. And of course, like most Brits, the only way we usually get to spend some time in the sun is by getting on a plane and heading south. Having in-laws that live in Cyprus does have its perks. The thing is, Cyprus is where I got bitten by the street photography bug. And boy, did this scratch that itch that I had. I saw chances for photography everywhere, and I finally had that elusive dynamic light to play with. What a kick that was. Then, reality sets back in, and summer is almost over. As autumn looms and the thermometer starts dropping, a whole new world of photography is about to open up. The season of colour. There is just colour for as far as the eye can see. It really is bursting with life, and that's what I love about this time of year, is that we're coming up to the season of colour. And as a photographer, that gets me very, very excited. And that's what I set out to start capturing this week. But once again, Mother Nature hurled her insults at me. Was this it? Was summer going to go out with a gust of wind rather than a blast of light? Well, this summer taught me a lesson. It taught me to see. It taught me to see the beauty in the mundane. It taught me to see the joy in the experience, not just the results. It taught me to see beauty in the rain. So what is the point of this video? What are the lessons to be taken away? Well, there's a couple of things. First, it doesn't matter what the conditions are, wherever you are in the world. What matters is actually going out and doing the photography. I've spoken about that a few times in my videos, and the reason for that is that it is a point that needs repeating often. When I was a beginner photographer myself, I watched lots and lots and lots of videos all about the settings of a camera. And that did help me to a certain point, but that wasn't what made me a good photographer. Yes, I know how to work a camera. I can shoot it in manual mode if I want to. It doesn't matter though, because what's important is actually going out and doing the photography. And the second lesson is probably the much more important one. And that is how you learn to see photographs. And this is something that's really, really hard to teach, because there's a reason so many photographers on YouTube do videos about settings and that sort of thing, because it's relatively easy to teach that. You tell people what settings to use, they use it, great. But when it comes to actually seeing good photographs, that's the difference between somebody who knows how to use a camera and somebody who is a good photographer. And the only way that you're going to learn how to see photographs in the environment that you're in is by actually being out and doing it. See, that last picture that I showed in the end of that sort of filmic video, it wasn't even that good a picture, really. The light wasn't nice. There was no dynamic light on the rocks, which would have been nice, a nice glow in the sky. Maybe even a rainbow would have made it better. But it was a very simple photo, and there was something beautiful about it. It's not one that's going to make it into my portfolio, but I saw the image because I'd done the practice, and that was it. You had a very simple scene of a lovely rock formation and a cloudburst in the distance. Now, I could have known all the settings in the world for my camera, got it absolutely nailed with sharpness to perfection. But if I hadn't been able to see that composition and balance the elements well, there wouldn't have been a photo there at all. And recently in my videos, I've been leaning more towards teaching this side of photography rather than the setting side, because there's so many videos out there now on how to get your settings right, but there's not many about being able to see good photographs. In fact, recently, if you follow me on social media, you'll notice that occasionally I'll do a photo analysis of some photos I've taken recently. Now, I don't do this with every photo that I take because it's a lot of work and it's not really applicable to all photos. But what I'm doing is taking my images and explaining my thought process behind them, because I feel like that will teach people a lot more than just knowing what settings I used. You'll often see under my pictures in my videos that I'll put the settings that I used. I haven't in this video, I haven't bothered because that's not what the point of this video. But putting those settings underneath won't actually teach you what's good about the photo. Explaining my thought process behind the photo, that's more what you can copy and learn from, and will be much more useful to you becoming a good photographer. So if that sounds like your sort of thing, then feel free to follow me on social media on Instagram, Vero, X, the artist formerly known as Twitter. And on there, I post these things quite frequently so that hopefully you can learn these things a bit more. But the overarching thing that I want to sort of express with this video is the settings are only so important. Getting out there and taking the photos and learning to see, that's what will make you a good photographer. I'll see you next time.